This episode of State of the State Parks is sponsored by audiobooks.com. State of the State Parks listeners get their first month free and not one, but 3 free books. Thinking about making a switch? Go to audiobooks.com/SOSP and click to join. There it goes.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
What do bees do when a fire happens? I'm sure they just fly away.
It's the State of the State Parks podcast with Chris and Mo. Hello, friends and family and State of the State Park superfans. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 1 of our podcast.
Wow, we had a wonderful break. And boy, oh boy, have we traveled to some exciting parks, and we can't wait to share them with you.
Today we are starting Season 2 in a park we've already shared with you, Chino Hills State Park. And you're probably saying to yourself, Chris and Mo, there are over 6,000 state parks in America. Why, oh why have you gone back to Chino Hills? Well, for one, Chino Hills is a state park. It's magical.
It's very close.
Well, for one, it's very close. 2, we are meeting a very special guest today.
Today, we are meeting Leif Richardson, a conservation biologist and bee specialist from the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Conservation. We will talk more about them later.
We're also meeting our friend Joel Robinson, a.k.a. the Barefoot Naturalist.
If you know, you know.
We've had a wonderful time off, and we're happy to be back.
This season, we are diving deeper into the knowledge and trying to learn more mind-expanding facts about everything we discover.
Okay, picking up in the parking lot where we meet our guests, and from there, we start our journey.
Howdy.
Hi, Joel.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
How you been, man?
Good.
Leif.
Hi.
Chris.
Chris, nice to meet you.
How are you? This is Mo.
What a pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Cool. So the plan will be to park
we'll
here
meet out
and
here.
take a trail somewhere.
Yeah.
Sure, we talked to them inside, and they said that there is a little discovery garden here that has bees in it, so we can actually just walk right here.
Let's go there first.
Perfect.
Discovery Trail discovered the variety of plant communities in the park. Along the trail, you will see representative plants from some of the many plant communities that grow in Chino Hills State Park. The plants were all grown from seeds and cuttings collected in the park, and it's important to use plant stock from the park in order to preserve local biodiversity. Oh, that's cool. So they harvest the seeds from here to replant in the park. So it's all being recirculated.
While Mo was reading the Discovery Trail sign, Leif went to his car and grabbed 4 butterfly nets. When he approached, boy oh boy did our eyes get big.
Rows are not getting away without swinging a net yourself.
I literally took an entire bee Xerxes training course.
Did you which one?
I did one online, and I literally thought to myself, I don't know that I should be doing this by myself. Like, I think I need to be with people before I'm capturing these endangered creatures and putting them in tubes into a thing.
Is that one of my things?
I think so. I was like doing it online, and I was like, I want to save bees, but I don't know that I'm equipped yet.
kill bees in the
I might kill bees.
Seems a little
It seems overwhelming at first, right?
difficult or not for me or something
I know,
at first,
yeah.
but if you want to, you're welcome to try to catch
Okay,
bees.
I'm down.
Ooh, hey, Chris. Check this out.
Wait, what am I looking at here?
You've seen this one before.
Is that what I think it is?
Yup.
Oh, it's our new Patreon page with 3 fun tiers to join.
More State of the State Parks action?
Yup.
Where can they sign up?
www.patreon.com/State of the State Parks.
Whoa, cool.
We were going to ask you a couple questions, which is, how did you get into this? How did you get into bee research?
How did I get into bee research? I've been doing this, I've been interested in bees since I was an adolescent. I grew up as a kind of outdoorsy kid and always liked plants a lot. Had adults in my life who helped me to see what was cool about being outdoors and plants and other things. And when I was in college, I did some research on plant reproduction. As you probably know, bees are heavily involved in plant reproduction, and I continue to be really interested in plants, bug out on plants all the time, but the bees are just simply amazing. They're animals, they're behaving in various ways, they're interacting with plant nectar and pollen, but also chemistry, and they're fascinating little creatures. So, yeah, and I think I should say that I'm a conservation biologist, and bees are in real trouble. Not all of them, but a lot of them, and that was an initial impetus for me when I saw that there was work to be done in bee conservation.
How long have you been doing this?
Well, I did a master's degree in the 1990s on this subject,
Wow.
and have done lots of other jobs since then, but all related to natural resource management in one way or another. I guess I've done bee work exclusively for about 15 years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you looking for more State of the State Parks content? Well, check us out on the Blue Sky Social app. Totally free, no ads, and a bunch of like-minded nature nerds just like us. Just search for State of the State Parks. Now, back to the show.
Just basic and simple tools, a net and some vials and a cooler, which we're not using today, but we don't kill the bees in our survey work, so we capture them, we chill them so that they are sort of anesthetized, and we take photos of them. They wake up, they warm up, wake up, and fly away. Yeah.
Unharmed.
So we spread out, all of us bobbing around the pollinator path looking for native bumblebees. But on this path, we only found honeybees, which gave Leif an opportunity to talk about the goods and not so goods about the western honeybee population.
You see a bumblebee?
There's a couple.
Oh yeah. Okay, these are honeybees. Let's talk about honeybees. So,
These are the Euro trashies.
yes, yes, your words, not mine. Honeybees are a farm animal. There's only one type, one species in North America, Apis mellifera. There's about 7 species total, and it's just one of the many types of bees that occur in California and across this continent. Again, it's a non-native agricultural animal. Think of it like cows, sheep, chickens, and think about the roles in our lives. It is a farm animal that does something beneficial for people, right? We get honey and wax and other hive products from them, and most importantly, we get pollination from them. So on farms, there are crops that require pollination by honeybees, things like almonds in California. We wouldn't have any almond industry in California without honeybees.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay, so that's what's good about honeybees. They are, unfortunately, an invasive species. So if you like to be in the parks and you're an outdoorsy person, you're probably familiar with invasive plants. There's a eucalyptus tree, wonderfully valuable tree in California for some things like production of wood and shade and such, but it's an invasive plant in some places. It spreads on its own, right? And it gets out of hand and causes some problems for natural communities, for the native stuff. We have the same situation that goes on in bug world, and in this case we have this one super abundant, very successful bee, the honeybee, that is found everywhere in nature in California, just about, except at high elevations. Also is found in hive boxes. Sometimes apiaries are placed on public lands like this. And the problem is that these non-native honeybees are in the environment, harvesting resources from the environment, and they're competing with native species for those resources. So those would be nectar and pollen primarily. And there's a lot of research that shows when honeybees are present, they're taking the nectar and pollen that other native bees would be using, and those native bees are less common on the same plants. In particular, we know this about bumblebees. And so when we think about bumblebee conservation, we worry a little bit about honeybees and what they're doing, what their role is in the declines that we see. So I told you that they compete for nectar and pollen, but there's another thing that they do that is really worrisome, and that's that they passively spread diseases to other bees through the shared use of flowers. So we're watching honeybees visit this buckwheat. Those honeybees likely have viruses and sometimes other microbial diseases that are in their saliva. And they stick their tongue into the flower to suck up nectar, and they leave behind those viruses or other microbes. It's just like us and the common cold or COVID or anything like this, right? We touch a doorknob and someone else touches the doorknob, and that's transmission. The obvious solution is to keep the farm animals on the farm, keep the wild animals wherever they're going, which is generally wildlands. But we Americans do not treat honeybees like a farm animal. All of our cultural narratives are
Save the bees.
contrary to what I just said.
Yeah.
Save the bees, right. Whatever bees, right? So a handy way to break yourself out of that kind of hidebound thinking that we have because of our culture is to ask yourself, do I think about other farm animals this way? Like hogs. Do we tolerate hogs in the environment just doing their thing because they're cool? We like bacon. We do not. We have a serious problem with feral pigs in California and the southeast and a lot of the rest of the continent. And the cat's out of the bag. We're probably not going to be able to fix this one. But look around. People are really upset about the environmental impact of those pigs. Chickens are wild in Hawaii. They're not wild here, right? But there are places where they're somewhat invasive in some environments. They just don't belong in those ecosystems. They haven't evolved with those plants and other organisms, and they're taking up some space, if you will, that native stuff is otherwise going to be using. So if you think about honeybees like pigs or chickens or something like this, it becomes harder to see their role in the environment. It becomes harder to just walk by the oak tree with a hole in it with a honeybee hive in it and think, oh, bees, let's save them. And it's more like, what is that hog doing up in that tree?
Yeah,
it just doesn't
interesting.
belong there, you know? So honeybees are super important. We love them in lots of ways. Again, California's very important agricultural industry depends on them in part. But it is a serious environmental problem that we're ignoring. As a person who works on bees, that's really the nexus environmentally, wild bees and these managed non-native bees. And so I have ideas about some approaches to solving the problem, but it's hard because of people. It's just not something people want to do.
Yeah.
A number of California state parks have this invasive thistle, yellow star thistle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're familiar?
Oh, yes.
And what do the parks do with yellow star thistle? They hit it with herbicides, they rip it out.
No.
They call people and ask, how do I handle this invasive weed problem? We want to restore this prairie or whatever it might be. How do we deal with this problem? And scientists like me, if we get that question, we try to work with the timing of flowering and like what's the best way to keep the seeds from regenerating and these kinds of things. That's a conversation we have about invasive plants in state parks all the time.
But not about
Have you heard this conversation about bees? I think if we were really to have an open conversation about honeybees, not managed honeybees on farms where they're doing work that we want them to do, but the feral ones that are everywhere around us. If we had an open and honest conversation about it, it would be difficult for a lot of people because removing them from the environment would be a goal in places where biodiversity conservation is a goal.
Yeah.
I want to again stress that they're not. It's just another animal. We shouldn't think of them as good or bad, but the terms of our relationship with them are what matter. I like to tell people that when we think about honeybees. As a conservation biologist, I care about the issues that we talked about earlier with competition and disease spread. But honeybees are not, they're dangerous for lots of people. Like every 2 years or so, we hear about a person who is stung to death in Southern California. And then there are lots of people who are allergic, or a single sting is, you've got to get to the hospital right now, or if you're going to survive it, right? And so it's kind of stunning to me that we live so close to them. Like on my street in the old, downtown part of Riverside, it's palm trees going down the street, and maybe 3 of the 5 palm trees have a nest up in the burl of dead petioles that they cut it so it looks like that kind of a burr. The honeybees love that. They're right in between leaf petioles. And those same bees are like foraging all over my garden and up and down the street. And I just think it's worth considering that for some of our neighbors, that is deadly. And yes, it is right in front of the house. And it's like all in the street. We would not tolerate rattlesnakes on my street in Riverside. People would kill them immediately, right? But we do tolerate this one. And so it's not to say honeybees are bad. Right?
Yeah.
It's just to think about the relative qualities of these bees in our relationship with them. And it's different from what people think. This is another way it's a little different from what people think. I think they're potentially more dangerous to human beings than human beings consider, and then we tolerate them being all around us. I can completely see the animal welfare arguments, and I don't like to hear about animals suffering, but that's not really the issue here. The issue is we have put the crown on our heads and called ourselves landscape managers, we humans, and we are selective about that. We don't want to look at some of the problems because they get us somewhere
sad.
deep. Yeah.
Well, shoot.
I know. Hey, we gotta talk about it.
After striking out in the pollinator path, we made our way into Chino Hills State Park, and Leif gave us a breakdown on native bumblebees and which ones we might see.
Bumblebees are social, like honeybees. They live in colonies with a division of labor where each bee has its own role to play. And most of the bees do not reproduce. It's just the mom and the dad who contribute to the next generation. And the daughters of that mom help her to produce the reproductive offspring. So this time of year, the ones that we are going to see outside are mainly going to be the queens who have come out of hibernation and are now searching for places to live, starting their colonies, collecting the first pollen of the year. They're underground laying eggs on that pollen, and doing cool stuff like that. We could see some workers, which is the other female caste in bumblebees. So that's the smaller females who, in almost all cases, forego reproduction. They do not reproduce in their lives, which, you know, when we take a biology class, we learn that animals have to reproduce and natural selection operates on this kind of thing. What those workers are doing is that they are helping their mother reproduce, and when she sends her genes down the line, they're so closely related to her that it benefits them in the same kind of way. Yeah. So one thing to know about bees now, it's March. It's pretty early, despite the warmth. You know, most of our bees could be out and flying if there were things to eat, but there aren't a lot of plants in flower. It's early spring in that sense. And that means that the bumblebees have to travel farther to find food. So sometimes we'll see them just sort of commuting above our heads, going somewhere.
En route.
Yeah, and we'll keep looking for them, but it's possible that they're here all around us, but just moving because they're looking for food. So historically, the story with bumblebees is that they are animals that come from cold places. They evolved on the Tibetan Plateau and then later in montane areas around the world. The only bumblebee populations in South America, for example, are in the mountains, with a few exceptions in low elevation places. But Southern California, we have a lot of places that are too hot and dry to sustain the multiple months of colony development that's necessary, where the bees need to have food constantly. And what that results in is you see nice bumblebee populations in the mountains and the foothills, and then you might not see any of them down in the low elevation places. And then there are lots of kind of in-between spaces, and this is a great example of that, Chino Hills. There's plenty of habitat here, and they're definitely here, and we might be here a little early, but we should be able to find some. But what that means to me is that when we exact changes on the landscape through, like, the citrus phenomenon here. The whole Inland Empire was citrus, right? Not the entire thing, but it was the dominant land use from here to Riverside and beyond. And that's almost entirely gone, like almost entirely. You look at old photos and you know these places, and there's development there. And I'm not saying that citrus was the good stuff in the reference condition, but the point is that we completely converted this landscape to agriculture with plants that make a lot of nectar and pollen, but also a lot of pesticides applied. And now with the development, we just don't see a lot of bumblebees in the lower elevation places in Southern California, unless it's a really wet year, or there are human beings who are planting and watering the right plants. And so that's why, like LA is a decent place to look for bumblebees. In Riverside, we go looking for the strawberry trees in early spring, or the places with manzanita and flower. Yeah. Those are the places to find bumblebees now. But you can imagine centuries past, that kind of food, not strawberry tree, but things like manzanita would have been scattered around that landscape, and so you would have had bees with something to eat. Now they don't have a whole lot to eat unless they're in an area with those plantings.
Up next, Mo asks a very topical question in today's current climate.
What do bees do when a fire happens? I'm sure they just fly away, go underground.
So fire is a disturbance to the environments these animals live in, these bees, and it can have negative consequences for them locally, and certainly the day of the fire is not a good one for a bumblebee colony or a ground nesting bee. They probably suffer a lot of mortality. They probably lose their their brood, their colony, their offspring. We don't really know how hot it gets below ground in the burrow that they live in when a fire goes across. And yes, bees will probably fly away as it gets hot and dry and smoky and then flames. However, fire benefits plant communities in very noticeable and measurable ways. And we can measure the bee response to that. And we see bees doing much better in burned places in the first 1 to 4 years after the fire. So when we do a survey, we find more bees, we find more types of bees if there's been a fire recently. Basically, if we see charcoal on the ground, we know we're going to do better than if we don't see charcoal on the ground.
Fascinating.
And this is probably mediated by plants, and the plants come back better after the fire because of nutrients in the soil, a whole suite of plants that only germinate or regrow when there's fire. So you just get more plants, more types of plants, better nectar and pollen production. Another thing that other folks see in fire studies that our project doesn't measure, but in some cases the bodies of the bees are larger in places that burned.
Oh, interesting. And what could cause they got more nectar afterwards because the plants are coming back? What's to cause that?
Yeah,
Maybe?
That's probably the short answer. When bees have more resources, they may produce larger bodied offspring.
Interesting.
So if they have all the pollen they need, they'll feed them the right amount. But if they're pollen limited, they will feed them less than would be optimal, and that produces a smaller bodied animal. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that affects the size of bees, and bumblebee colonies are notorious for having large workers and tiny workers and every size in between. Honeybees don't do that. They're all the same size roughly.
Oh, how interesting.
And so bumblebees are doing something.
We got a bee right in front of you.
Oh, right in front of you. Okay, so we see a bee. It's a big kind of orange thing.
Is that a male?
He dropped all of his things other than one.
That looks like the male carpenter, yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Male carpenter bee.
It went up ahead.
Well, that was fun. Well, if nothing else, that was exciting. Yeah, I just saw him go across us too. I've got my eyes peeled now.
It kind of looked orange.
Yeah.
Carpenter bees are familiar to a lot of people around here because they live around us and they're big and colorful or shiny black. They are native bees. They're not bumblebees. They're a relative of bumblebees and honeybees, but they're their own thing. And we have 3 to 5 species of them in California. And they are social, but they're subsocial. They live in little family units where some of the daughters help the mom a little bit, but it isn't as complex communication. There isn't as much coordination, and there isn't as much differentiation of the castes.
Oh, interesting.
So they're really quite different animals, but people will often say they saw a bumblebee, and
It's
when we
usually
talk
like
about
a
it, it
carpenter
turns
bee.
out to be a carpenter bee. So, yeah, different animals.
Find pictures from this episode at stateofthestateparks.com under the Galleries tab, Season 2.
So you bring up nectar robbing. This is something that bumblebees are famous for, but a lot of other bees do it too. And that is this behavior where they go to the flower and they tear a hole in the side of the flower, in the corolla, which on this plant is that red tube that the hummingbird would stick its tongue into. And so the bumblebee will go to the base of the flower and rip out, either make a cut or they'll rip out a little circle and they'll stick their tongue in there. And the bees that do this, they'll just do it on every flower. And then there's this whole suite of other insects and birds that will use that hole instead of the front door of the flower.
Oh, wow.
So the first one is called primary nectar robbing, the second is called secondary nectar robbing. And you would think that this was terrible for plants and that those flowers would die. And that is the case in some plants, but in other plant systems, it actually helps them to produce seeds. So those nectar robbers are also pollinators. For example, a way that can happen is if you can see that in this plant, the male parts are dangling down from the corolla. They're hanging in the air freely. Also the female part, the stigma or style, is going to be there. So there's the female, and there's all the male stuff. And so if the bee lands like this and then walks up here, so if it lands on the sexual parts and then walks to the base of the flower and makes a hole, it has still touched the pollen-bearing parts. It still touched the stigma and maybe deposited pollen from another flower. This is an interesting place where human beings have misread an animal behavior to be good or bad. Sort of like there's duality. And it's complicated. It really depends on the two animals or the multiple animals, and the plant and the morphology of the flowers and so on.
Yeah, we really love the black and white of it all, don't we?
We really do, yeah.
Just tell me, is this good or bad?
While spending all that time looking around for bees, Joel noticed another colony of a different species on the ground.
Cool. I was just looking at the harvester ants, yeah.
Whoa.
Nice. That's good to see.
So they're harvester ants?
Yeah.
What makes them harvester ants?
Well, all the buckwheats and grasses and everything, when they produce their seeds in the late summer and fall, those seeds eventually end up on the ground. And these ants are collecting all of the seeds and bringing them back to the nest. And then they'll discard the chaff around the exterior of the nest. So later in the season, you'll see all of this accumulation of chaff.
Oh, those are those guys.
Harvesting everything.
I've seen that.
Yeah. And
Sometimes you'll see things grow out of the waste pile.
yeah,
Right, when they
yeah,
leave a
for
seed.
sure. And then you'll see all these lizards scat around there because all the lizards like to eat them, especially horned lizards, coast horned lizards. There's another, just like all the native bees we're talking about, they're highly threatened. Harvester ants are being displaced by habitat loss, Argentinian ant competition, all of that. So
Cool.
yeah, it's good to see that they're here.
Yeah.
And they seem to be doing all right.
Find a picture of these harvester ants on the stateofthestateparks.com under the Galleries tab, Season 2.
I would like. Ooh. You got something? The male carpenter is
On the pepper tree.
On the backside.
Ooh.
Backside over here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's big.
so cool looking. Flying to the left and coming back around.
Joel's got
it. And gone.
Man, that was
Got to
cool.
see it.
That was fun,
That was, I don't think I knew they were that big.
That's a big bee.
That was a big bee.
Big orange bee.
So that's the size that queen bumblebees will be, roughly, but then the workers and the males are a bit smaller.
Chino Hill State Park Round 2, we love you. What a wonderful day, and we aren't even done.
That's right, boys and girls, theys and thems. We're going to split this episode into 2 parts.
We've had so much bee knowledge, we're splitting this into 2 beautiful episodes.
Oh my. In episode 2, we might even catch a native bee.
Oh yeah? We do?
Well, they're just going to have to listen when that episode 2 comes out.
Then I think we should hold off on the pinnacle pick on this episode in hopes that we catch a bee.
I agree. What a fun day it was, and we aren't even done sharing it. Thanks again, everyone. We are so thrilled and excited to be back for season 2.
This season, we collaborate with land managers, local community groups, docents, park rangers, and enthusiasts all along the way.
Stay tuned for all the SOSP action you can handle.
Thanks again, everybody. Bye!
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. There it goes.
I've seen that. What do bees do when a fire happens? I'm sure they just fly away.
It's the State of the State Parks podcast with Chris and Mo. This episode of State of the State Parks is brought to you by audiobooks.com. State of the State Parks listeners get their first month free and not 1 but 3 free books. Thinking about making a switch? Go to our website, stateofthestateparks.com, and click the link.